Okay, we're going to go ahead and start. We're going to go ahead and get started. Bart, you see how they respect me? Then, so we've had a lot of speakers here. I think I haven't counted up between Jessica and I kind of tag team. Whoops. Jessica and I tag team to bring the speakers in. And so I think between the two of us, Jessica, do you have any idea how many speakers we've had? You're counting these. You have the pictures up. Over 40. I'm sure it's at least that. And we try not to ever pay anybody. I don't think we've ever, as far as I know, we've never paid anybody. We have bought a few books, we've paid a few plane tickets, but generally speaking, they're all free. And I have said I've never been more proud to have one come. You know, it's really a treat. I grew up with him, so I know more about him than you ever will, and a lot more about him than you want to. But it's really a pleasure. I mean, he's done a whole bunch of things in his career, as I'm sure you'll tell him, Bart. And he has a whole bunch of different talks he could give. So a lot of you ask me, what is he going to talk about? I really don't know because he's got 2 or 3 different things he does frequently. But I've had the pleasure of hearing him speak, and I think you'll find this is well worth it. I'm not going to say any more. Now, we are definitely going to leave time for questions.
If there are.
I'm going to answer one up front. He is significantly older than I am.
I don't need that. I got well. You got to work with this guy every day? Wow. Well, listen, hello. Thanks for having me to Logitech. This is an amazing place. I mean, just hanging out here, you feel that you are, because you are, on the cutting edge of some really great stuff. So congratulations to all of you and all that you're doing. Give you a little background, as he said, just a little bit. I'm a lawyer by trade. Tried 153 jury trials in my day. I loved every second of it. I was in the courtroom for 25 years. And now I'm a college president of my undergrad school, Kentucky Wesleyan College, small little school in Owensboro, Kentucky, where we grew up mostly. I've learned a lot, and I'm going to share some of that with you. But what I want to do here today, really, there's a lot of things I'm going to talk about that are all thrown together. I have the privilege of getting around doing a little speaking to leadership groups and that kind of thing, and that's part of this. But it's really, we're going to talk about how to look at things a little differently, even the person sitting next to you, and how the real leadership, the real change things sometimes happen. I know what you're thinking. You're going, his mannerisms are just like Bracken's. That's exactly what you're doing. And sometimes the most unlikely people by stereotype are actually people that can take us places we've never thought about going. Bracken and I did grow up together, 4 of us. We're all about 18 months, 2 years apart. I'm number 2, he's 3, sister's 4, older brother's number 1. I'm cooler than him. No question about that. Let me tell you what he did. This is how uncool he is. I have this radio show. So he gave that nice introduction as a preemptory strike, right? I really did appreciate it. I have this radio show I do on our campus, and it's called The President's Place, and I bring in all these, some of you may have even listened to it, but I bring in cool people, usually, and we talk about what they are, who they are, what they do, why they do it, and its impact on things. And they all have to come in and tell us something cool about themselves. So I had Bracken on talking about Logitech, which is really cool. And I said, okay, Bracken, everybody in Owensboro, Kentucky, they know who you are. You grew up here. But, tell us something cool about you that they may not know unless they're listening right now. And he told this story about being in this, what was it, 400-meter swim in Switzerland, part of a triathlon. 2,500, don't sell it short. 2,500-meter swim. And he said, I'm about, near the end, 100 meters away, and he's just neck and neck with this other swimmer. And Bracken, being the competitor that he is, he kicked it in, he said. Battled to the finish. Beat the person right at the end. And I'm kind of impressed, And then he said, to finish 499 out of 500. and she was 72 years old. I said, dude, I would not have told that on the radio. But mine's worse. I didn't do triathlon. I got into marathon. I did 9 marathons. My first one was in New York City. Anybody run the New York City Marathon? We're family now. Well, you'll appreciate this. At mile 19, I'm feeling really good about myself. I trained all these months. I'm ready. I feel good. Can't wait to finish this thing, go back to Kentucky and tell everybody how great I am. And then I got passed by somebody. Somebody wearing a 7 feet tall, hard-shell rhinoceros suit. That's deflating at mile 19. Really bad. Now, I did catch the rhinoceros, but you knew that because I would not be telling this. Unlike him, I would not be telling this. Anyway, so, but there's a lot of cool people.
Some nights I stay up, cashing in my bad luck. Some nights I call it a draw. Some nights I wish that my lips could build a castle. Some nights I wish they just fall off. But I still wake up, I still see a ghost. Oh Lord, I'm still not sure what I stand for. Oh, what do I stand for? What do I stand for? Most nights I don't know anymore. In my bed tonight stops my bones from wondering why am, who am I? Well, some nights I wish that this all would end, 'cause I could use some friends for a change. And some nights I'm scared you'll forget me again. Some nights I always wash my hands of that for this. I miss my mom and dad for this. No. When I see stars, that's all they are. When I hear songs, they sound like the swans of come on. Oh, come on. Well, those it got daddy's on. Taught me to sit in a void. In 10 years of this, I'm not sure if anybody understands. But it's not for the broken home. Sorry to leave, mama had to go. Who the fuck was the dialogue? All cried up in the desert sun. My heart's breaking for my sister and the calm that she called love. And then I look into my nephew's eyes. Man, you wouldn't believe the most amazing things that can come from some terrible lie.
This is something that at Kentucky Wesleyan, where I took over, we had to make major change when I got in there. I became a college president in the weirdest way you can imagine. I was practicing law, loved every second of it. Started to feel a little bit on autopilot. Don't ever get there. That's death. Okay. Well, I had chaired the search committee of my predecessor, and he asked me if I would consider coming in as a vice president. No. I love what I'm doing. A year later, our mother was getting sicker. She had Alzheimer's, and the president came back to me and said, would you reconsider this? Come in here. I'll make it a global position. I'm going to do this 4 years and retire. I said, something's telling me I got to do this. You know. So I had the privilege, along with a lot of help from Bracken and other siblings, taking care of my mom for the last 6 months of her life, and she always wanted me to be a college president because her father was. She wanted one of us to. I think I was her fourth pick. But my mother passed away, and her funeral was one day, and I was named president the next. The president decided to do 4 months instead of 4 years. So I tell people when I speak about school, I say there's bad news and good news with me. The bad news is I don't know anything about being a college president. The good news is what? I don't know anything about being a college president. We do everything by feel and instinct, and a lot of things I bet. I'd like to think some of the things that you all are doing here. So that's the way it happened. That's a short story, and that's boring you enough with that. But a lot of things have happened over my career that I'll share with you, a few things. Probably you've had more significant things, but some of the people you meet will change your life if you'll just know that's what they can do, and that's everybody. I had this really cool friend. He's like, he's almost family to me. His name's Greg Catron. He's from Cloverport, Kentucky. You've never heard of Cloverport, Kentucky? You have. It's small. It's smaller than this room, okay? And nobody in Greg Catron's family had ever darkened the door of a college classroom. I met Greg Catron playing high school basketball against him. He was a year older than I was. I want to show you something. And all right, how many of you, be honest, have ever felt like you were someplace when somebody categorized you or stereotyped you for one reason or another? And anybody who didn't raise their hand, hate to break it to you, it happened, okay? All right, this is an oldie but a goodie. I love this clip. Everybody remember Paul Potts, the guy that started kind of the America's Got Talent, or that whole American Got Talent, or whatever it is? Watch this. This is kind of my friend Greg Catron in a lot of ways.
But for the next contestant, the world of showbiz seems a million miles away.
It's Paul, a mobile phone salesman from South Wales.
By day, I sell mobile phones. My dream is to spend my life doing what I feel that I was born.
Well, let me tell you about Greg. I may even need it. Let me tell you about Greg Catron. What happened? This guy came out, and he told him he was there to sing opera. And oh, you good? Okay, here we go. Whoops.
But for the next contestant, the world of showbiz seems a million miles away.
It's Paul, a mobile phone salesman from South Wales.
By day, I sell mobile phones. My dream is to spend my life doing what I feel that I was born to do.
Paul, what are you here for today, Paul?
To sing opera. I've always wanted to sing as a career. Confidence has always been sort of like a difficult thing for me. I've always found it a little bit difficult to be completely confident in myself.
Okay. Ready when you are.
How cool is that? And see, you'd love the faces of the judges who walked out and said, I'm going to sing opera. So you knew, those shows are weird. We want to see great talent, but not really. We're more interested in seeing somebody make a fool out of themselves, as sick as that is. But that's what we do, and we're kind of like that in real life, a lot of people are. And to see the human transformation by his talent. See, we try to talk to our kids every day. I don't care what your talent is. It answers every one of those questions you saw in that opening slideshow. Every talent has leadership born in it. Unfortunately, this guy was 36 years old. Nobody ever heard him sing before. He'd been sitting on the ice for 36 years. Nobody knew what he had. Of course, he wins the thing. He gets a $1 million recording contract. But wow, what a shame. Greg Catron, who I mentioned, I met him playing basketball. Didn't know him very well. After he got out of high school, he went to vocational school for a year. He got through with that, and he thought, you know what? Nobody in my family's ever gone to college, but I think I can do it. So he applied, and he went and studied accounting. And he did really well. When he got through with that, he thought, it's crazy these people thought that was. My real dream was to be a lawyer. And I'm going to try to get into law school. He took the test, he got accepted, and we started hearing from other people that knew us both said, you and Greg Catron are going to be in law school together at the University of Louisville. So we hooked up. And we studied together every single day for 3 years. We graduated with GPAs of .01 apart. I claim the higher one, so does he. I'm right. Okay? Anyway, the first day of law school, we're sitting in this room like this. There's 120 first-year law students there. The dean walked out. She said, congratulations, welcome to the University of Louisville School of Law. Chest is out now, right? Then she said, oh, a third of you will be flunked out the first semester. I did just what you did. I went, this was a brilliant decision. Then it got worse. She said, each of you stand up and introduce yourselves to your classmates. Well, I heard your competition. First guy, not exactly his name, but it's close. My name is Winston Smith IV. No offense to any of you out here. If you got more than 3 on the end of your name, have to tell people about it. You need help. Watch out for those people. Winston Smith IV. I graduated in the top 3% of my class from Stanford University. My grandfather was a federal judge appointed by the President of the United States of America. I thought, well, he's going to make it, right? He's going to make it. And people like that, they're going on and on. All of a sudden, I'm terrified. And I leaned over to my new friend, Greg Catron from Cloverport, Kentucky. There's nobody that ever darkened the college door in his. And he had gone to vocational school for a while first. And I said, Greg, I think we're the 2 dumbest people in this room. I know that's politically incorrect, and I apologize. And he didn't look at me. I'll never forget this. He leaned over to me and he said, I think you're right, but I'm pretty sure I'm the only one in here with a welding certificate. I'm not making this up. Then I went from scared to terrified because I realized the 2 lowest on the totem pole here were sitting together, and one of them had Plan B. He's going to be all right. He can weld with the best of it. Greg Catron was Paul Potts, where he came from. Greg Catron has now been for close to 20 years the vice president, one of the top vice presidents over compliance for Humana, the big healthcare organization. He hadn't changed a bit. He can still weld. This picture right here is one of my favorite pictures of anything that I have. One of the school districts that I did work for when I was practicing law tackled an issue that many of you are familiar with, where kids who do not fit in a regular school district, either because of emotional circumstances or financial circumstances, it's just not going to work. And what do? They drop out. Then what happens? The cycle. So the school district decided to take this on. They started a new school. It's called the Lighthouse Academy. This is the first graduation. Those 5 seats on the left were the graduates. Now it's over 120 every year. There's the superintendent of the schools at the podium, the principal of the school there. School board was sitting over here out of the picture. I went because I represented them and I just wanted to see. I thought it was cool, so I went. This is at an elementary school gym. That graduation was a lot like ones you've been to, even though much smaller. They gave out a math award, a science award, all that stuff, and diplomas. There were about 50 people in that gym. That kid right there, his name's Kevin. He was sitting in that last chair on the left. The other 4 kids all got an award of some kind except for Kevin. And he's getting his diploma there. And the graduation went fine, and it was coming to a close. Principal's up there, the superintendent is up at that podium dismissing everybody. Okay, then a hand went up in the audience. And for those of you who have maybe had the opportunity, if any of you have, of presiding over a graduation or something like that, or attending them, that is typically bad. You don't want that. There's no place on a graduation program that says public comment. Okay? So I see this hand go up, and the lawyer now, uh-oh, what are we going to do here? But everybody saw her, so he couldn't ignore her, so he said, yes, ma'am. And she said, asked this question, may I come up there and say something? Worse, real bad. So now I'm gone into full lawyer mode. What am I going to do, tackle her? You know, he didn't have any choice. He said, okay. That lady climbed out of those bleachers in her best dress that she had. She walked up to that podium, and she started speaking. She was by no means a polished public speaker, but this is what she told us. She said, Kevin is my son. She said, he came home last year and told me about this new school that would allow him to go to school half a days if you'd take him, and he could work the other half a day to help the family because his father's sick and he's not going to be with us much longer, and we don't have any money. She said, I told him no because, she said, I wanted him to be a little boy just a little while longer. And she said, but he stayed on me, and against my best judgment, I gave in. He applied, you accepted him. She said, he spent this past year going to school half days, got his degree. He worked the other half of his day at McDonald's. He kept $25 out of every paycheck to take care of himself, gave the rest to the family. And she said, he may not have won any awards today, but I want to tell him I love him. Whew. I'm telling you, you know those things like you could hear a pin drop or the air left the room? That happened. Everybody in there wanted to raise their hand and say, wow, Kevin, you're so far ahead of all of us. Because see, at 17 years old, he'd already figured out that his life was about more than just him. And that's the way the workplace should be, the way the life should be. The year before, he was a kid walking the halls of a high school like most of us probably went to. He wasn't on the student council. He wasn't on the basketball team. He never said anything. He was a C student. He was unremarkable except that he was extraordinary. And nobody knew it because nobody knew his heart and nobody knew his courage. Now, that's the kind of young man that can take us places nobody else can. He was scared of nothing, and nobody knew it. That's the kid we don't pay attention to, and we should. When I was a high school senior, see, we believe, we talk about this at Wesleyan a lot, about let your tough days define you in a positive way. Those are going to be your assets, not your string of victories. When I was a senior in high school, I thought I was the man, okay? Brack and I were on the basketball team together at high school. He was a sophomore, I was a senior. I was the captain of the team. I was it, all right? In my limited intellectual capacity, I thought it. We came to our biggest game of the year in the tournament. We have a big pep rally, and my coach calls me over, and he says, I need to talk to you, Bart. I said, yes, sir. He said, I need to start this one kid who's a freshman, who's really good shooter, friend of ours, John Ward. And he said, I'm going to start him in place of you. I said, I didn't mean it. I said, yes, sir. Whatever it takes to win, sir. I was crushed. I couldn't believe it. How could this be? What happened is that kid goes out and plays great, and we knocked off the number 5 team in the state. And I don't remember anybody's statistics, but I remember how I felt after the game when my coach was hugging me. I never did admit to him that I didn't go along with the plan. But I did learn right then I wasn't that great, but I was capable of being part of something greater. Fast forward 2 weeks. I'm out for the baseball team. I've been playing shortstop since I was 10 years old. I've been a starter on my high school baseball team for 3 years. I'm the captain of the baseball team. So I came out. We had a brand new coach. His name's Denny Potts. I went out to shortstop like I've done since I was 10 years old. First time I'd seen Coach Potts, he hits me a ground ball. I picked it up like I had since I was 10. I threw it to first base. I was really good. That was great. And I hear the coach yell, center field. I'm looking around. Who's he talking to about center field? And he's looking at me. I said, me? And he said, I don't know who told you you were a shortstop. You are no shortstop. You are now a center fielder. I went to center field. I found out I wasn't that great, but I got to be part of something greater. And I want you to know that yesterday I got to call my high school coach, Denny Potts, who became a college coach, to tell him that he was being inducted into our college's Hall of Fame. And he also is somebody who signed my paperwork when I took the bar exam to be a lawyer, because I thought that much of him. So our humility, the humiliating and lessons in humility also are our greatest strengths. But here's what else happened to me that year. My last game, Bracken knows this one all too well, I met one of my best friends in my life. We're playing in the 2 games away from the state tournament. Basketball, I'm sorry, thank you. And I guard this guy named Ray Harper, who has gone on to have a Hall of Fame coaching career. He's a college coach now. And here's how I introduced Ray about 10 years later, speaking. And I was introduced to him as a speaker somewhere. So Ray Harper and I have been close friends since we met when we were 17 years old at the Owensboro Sports Center basketball game, my last game. Here's what we had in common. We were same age, same size, played the same position, both teams were really good, and we guarded each other, and we were both the leading scorers on our teams that day. Here is the only subtle difference I could find. I led my team in scoring with 14 points, and he led his in scoring with 32. That was the last game I ever got to play. And we lost. I wasn't that great, but I was part of something greater, an unbelievable friendship. Ray got up to the podium after introducing that one. He said, you know, he got that about right. Everything he said's about right. He said, but I did learn something from Bart all those years ago. I learned that when you find somebody that you can score 32 points on that easily, you keep them close forever. You know, good friends are hard to find. So we really try to encourage our kids to take all these things and make them positive. It's so easy to focus on the bad days that you have. And what you don't realize is that there are your greatest strengths. They truly, truly are. Because the biggest thing you can do is be afraid to fail. Your string of successes makes you more likely to have catastrophic failure. Because here's what happens. We could all think of something that we can come here to Logitech every day and do every single day and do it perfectly. And do it really, really well. And if I asked you, if you did that every day this week, is that a great week? Is that a successful week? And a lot of people might, not here, but a lot of people say, yeah, that is. Did it all right. I'll say it was your worst week. Because what happened to you is this. Every day you went without a mistake or creative failure, your self-confidence really got more and more narrow because your mind starts going, okay, I haven't failed in a month. What's that going to feel like? Is it going to kill me? That's when you get paralyzed and you're just afraid to do something great and extraordinary. Bracken came to Kentucky Wesleyan a few years ago, gave a commencement speech. I thought, this is cool. I got my brother coming in, like he's got me. He got up at the podium. Here's what he told the graduating class. Pretend you're seniors in high school getting ready to go out in the world and conquer it, right? Or seniors in college. And he said this, I want each of you to go out and fail. Fail early, fail often, fail late if it doesn't kill you. And I'm thinking, thank you for this inspiring message to these brilliant minds coming out of Kentucky Wesleyan. But then he explained it just that way. He said, this is where it all happens. This is where greatness happens. So I love your culture. You can feel it in here. You walk in the door, you can feel it. Y'all have a common thread. You're creative. Nobody's worried about turf wars. You feel it. Everybody's wanting everybody else to be great and cool, successful, and you as a group clearly want to beat everything out of everybody else. We do 4 things at Wesleyan. This is what we do. We have a thing called the Wesleyan Way. And it's 4 principles. It's on my band right here, Wesleyan Way. If you want one, I'll send it to you. We tell kids this. Here's the way it works here. We try to do everything with honor. 2, you're all going to support everybody else. If you're in the choir, you're going to the soccer game. Soccer player's going to play. The actress is going to the football game. The quarterback is going to see volleyball. The volleyball player's going to debate. The debater is going to watch baseball. Because we're all better that way. 3, I don't care whether you want to work for Logitech, whether you want to be a minister, whether you want to be a lawyer. The 3rd thing, everybody's going to learn how to compete, but they're going to do it with the highest level of integrity. Because that's the only way it means anything. And 4th and finally, we're going to love each other and we're going to tell each other. And we really believe that if you have an organization, not just a college, but an organization that feels that way about itself and its parts, there's no way you're going to get beat. Those 4 things are unbeatable, in my view. Let me see what I've got here. This is Darrell family trivia. No, that is neither one of us, before you say it. Everybody know what this is? The most famous album cover in the 20th century, according to People magazine. The photographer is our first cousin. Cool, right? I started a little project about 2 years ago, and I was asking people this question. I want you to talk about something, a decision that you made that might seem insignificant or not, that as you look back on it is one of the best decisions you ever made in your life. I've been collecting these. Everyone wants to participate? Send them on. I asked my cousin, and his was compelling to me because it was something I really didn't know. This is the way it started. His name's Kirk Weddle. His name's still on the back of the CDs and whatever, Nirvana. Oh, he's got, that's right, he's done some stuff for you guys. Yeah, unbelievable photographer. Here's how he started it. I open it up and I read the email and it says, I was a drug dealer. He said a guy owed me $500 and I was going to go scare him and get it out of him. So I snuck over to his house in the middle of the night with my combat boots, a pair of handcuffs, and a pistol. I was going to break down the door, handcuff him, teach him a lesson, because I didn't want the word getting out that I would let people not pay me $500. I just can't believe it's my cousin. And he said, I went to the door and I looked up in the dark still and I decided, time to do it. And he said, I slammed into that door to break it down. He said, the problem was it wasn't like in the movies. It didn't break down. It made a lot of noise and hurt. So he thought, I know this guy's going to come out now. So he said, I kicked again, it partially broke. It didn't go all the way in. So I knew I was at that moment in my life where here we go. So he knew he was going to get shot or shoot somebody. And he said, all of a sudden he looked up at the sky and he thought, I don't want to be a drug dealer anymore. He ran off that porch into the night. 10 years later, this. You want to talk about cool. This guy's about as cool as it gets. And but it was really compelling to me because it goes to show you again just how, one moment, one person can change everything for you. In that case, he changed himself. But anyway, that's good Darrell trivia right there. Last person I want to talk about is a really, really good friend of mine. And this goes back to where we started about people that can really make change and can really lead, because leadership really is nothing more than helping people get from one place to another place in a positive way, I hope, where they never thought they could go. That's real leadership. Danny Carruthers lives in Bowling Green, Kentucky. That's Danny on the right, one of my closest friends. Danny Carruthers graduated from high school the same year I did. I didn't know him. Football scholarship. He got into drugs. He flunked out of college, starts dealing, gets caught, goes to prison, serves a sentence. When he got out, he decided, you know what? Something's got to change. And since that time, he has done nothing but work, and every waking hour virtually, he's not sleeping or working. He's working with little kids that are high risk from tough areas in Bowling Green, Kentucky. One of the things he did was he coached a team, a little football team, 10, 11, 12-year-olds. They're called the Bears. And here's what Danny did. They had to bring their report cards to practice, have satisfactory grades for it, even let them practice. They had to bring their test scores in. They had to do public service for people who have more than they do. Of the 15 or so kids on this team, only one of them knew who his father was. He had to go pick them all up for practice. They have nowhere to go. They have nothing. These are kids that are getting thrown away. And it takes a convicted drug dealer to do something about it. Well, this lady up there, Elizabeth Lauer, you can't see her name. What happened is this. She heard about Danny. And she had to have a senior project for her photojournalism degree at Western Kentucky University. So she was going to try to find Danny Carruthers over in the projects with these kids. She was from Louisville. She couldn't find him, didn't know where she was going. She was in a bad place. She goes to a sporting goods store finally and says, do you all by any chance know a guy named Danny Carruthers? And they said, you want his cell number? Because he's here every day getting something for those kids. So she gets in touch with Danny and she tells him what she wants to do. She wants to follow the team around for the whole fall semester, or at least go to a few games and make that her project. And Danny said, no, we're not interested in things like that. And she said, look, if I don't get the project done, I don't graduate. He said, well, if you promise me that's what this is for, I'll let you do it. Well, she went the first day, Elizabeth did, and never left. And then this is the cover of what she sent in, but she didn't just send it in for a project. She sent it into the USA Today and nominated Danny Carruthers for the National Coach of the Year, and he won it. And her opening line was this: I started going to the Bears practices for a senior project. I kept going for my soul. And I read the first line. I thought, well, no wonder he won. This is Danny. She gave me all of her pictures if I promised not to charge for anything. That's the only reason you're not getting the bill. That's Danny picking up kids. There you see, there's test scores. That's our state assessment. That kid did not think he was going to do anything and did really well. So he was excited. They're shopping for Thanksgiving to take Thanksgiving dinner to people who don't have anything. But I promise you, every place they went had more than these kids. That lady in the back was dying of cancer. They went over there to help her with her kids. There's just that. And then she gave me this. We put a little something together and then we'll be almost finished, I promise. Mm-hmm. Should be.
think about the generations and to say we want to make it a better place for our children and our children's children, so that they know it's a better world for them and think they can make it a better place.
There's a place in your heart, and I know that it is love, and the place is much brighter than tomorrow. And if you really try, you'll find there's no need to cry. In this place, you feel there's no hurt or sorrow. There are ways to get there if you care enough for the living. Make a little space, make a better place, heal the world, make it a better place for you and for me and the entire human race. There are people dying. If you care enough for the living, make a better place for you and for me. If you want to know why, there's a love that cannot lie. Love is strong, it only cares for joyful giving. If we try, we shall see. In this bliss we cannot feel. There are dreams, stop existing and start living. Then it feels that always love enough for us growing. Make a better world, make a better world, heal the world, make it a better place for you and for me and the entire human race. There are people dying. If you care enough for living, make a better place for you and for me. And the dream we were received and will reveal a joyful face. And the world we once believed in will shine again in grace. Then why do we keep straining though this earth crucify its soul? Though it's plain to see that this world is heavenly, we could fly so high that our spirits never die. In my heart, I feel you are all my brothers. Create a world with no fear. Together we'll cry happy tears. See the nations turn their swords into plowshares. We can really get there if you care enough for the living. Make a little space to make a better place. Heal the world, make it a better place for you and for me and the entire human race. There are people dying. You and for me. The world we live. You and for me. For our children.
I don't care what business we think we're in that business. Taking people from one place to another they didn't think they could go. You think you're in tech, you're not. It's really not what you're in. You're in the people business and making people feel better about themselves and the people they're with. This last thing, I'm going to sit down after this.
You got to take a few questions.
Yeah, I will. I'll be happy to. This will be the first time I'm really talking about this in part of the program. When I was a kid, I would have promised you, this goes in the category of don't ever give up on who you think you are. A lot of people may want you to, but there may be reasons for it. Why things have not turned out the way you thought. When I was a kid, I would have guaranteed you I'd have had 3.2 children, the stereotypical, I'd been coaching every little league, I've been married, all that. That didn't happen for me. I got all kinds of great nieces and nephews, 3 of them, if you're president here. They're unbelievable kids. This kid's name's Michael Hicks. And Michael Hicks, his father left when he was 3 months old. He never heard from him again. Still hadn't. I met Michael when he was 9 years old. Set up on a blind date with his mother. That didn't work out, but he and I have stayed a pair over the years. Took him to school every day. When he was 12 years old, we were in the car. He said, can I tell people you're my dad? How cool is that? I said, you tell me anything you want to tell him. And when he was this age, he asked me if I'd adopt him. That was about a year ago, believe it or not, April 26th. Michael, there he is a picture. Michael's now 6'5", 235 pounds. He's a Division I college baseball player. And I carry this around with me. I'll get it out of my pocket. I carry this around with me most places since last March. His dream was to be a Division I baseball player. And at the time when I met him, he was a little heavy kid, slowest kid in the room, on the field and every place else. But he ended up being one of the top 10 players in Kentucky in high school. And he signed a baseball scholarship at Western Kentucky University. And I told him how proud of him I was, but I also told him, don't expect to pitch very much as a freshman. That doesn't, you take your turn at this level. He said, why? I think I'm better than most of them. But that wasn't my generation. We said, pay your dues, not this generation. I said, fine, Michael. Well, the first game of the year, I went down to, his school's about an hour and a half from where I live. I went down to the game. I was down the left field line. And about the 5th inning, guess who comes trotting out of the bullpen? Michael. I watched that young man, now 6'5", I still thought he was 10, 6'5", 235 pounds, running up to the mound as a college pitcher. This is the ball that was thrown to the very first hitter, who fouled it off, and it went by my head. It bounced off a wall, and I caught it. The point of that, the reason I tell you that, it sends a great message, and that is, number one, don't ever give up on who you think you are. He was waiting on me, I was waiting on him. I get that. But the other thing is, keep your eyes open. You never know when something really cool is going to happen to you. So, I want to thank you all for letting me share a little bit with you. I hope that some of the things I've said might resonate somewhere, in either what you do here or somewhere else, but it's been an absolute honor, and I can't begin to tell you how much I think of your CEO and president. He's not just my brother, he's my best friend. And he's taught me an awful lot over the years, as a person and as a professional. So I'm not going to pretend to be objective. If you want somebody objective, you better leave. But he's a good one. Thank you. Questions?
Before you do take that, a little bit about, because Bart kind of explained himself, and I'll explain a little bit more about what he's been up to. So as he said, he went from being a lawyer for 25 years to to becoming a president of college, which was not at all so the plan. But our grandfather was president of college, as he said, so it was kind of a, you know, like a fitting, you know, kind of thing to happen, you know. So anyway, but since then, you know, if you think we've been in a turnaround, you should see the turnaround he was in, and he's turned that college around incredibly. I mean, enrollment was declining. The college was actually on probation. Morale was terrible, and there were lots of discussions around, honestly, whether to close the college. So now it's completely flipped around. Enrollment's growing, endowment's growing, everything's up. So it's a good story. So anyway, so I was really just talking partly so you'd have time to think of a question.
You don't have to have
any question, yeah, if you have any. You can ask about anything. Or nothing. No questions? All right.
I'm a father of 4 kids. My two older boys are 24 months apart, and they fight like hell. Well, one day, will they call each other best friends? Did that happen with you guys?
You know, we didn't fight them, but we would throw a lot of basketballs in the backyard. One-on-one was pretty physical, but in terms of, you know, we just weren't really wired that way.
No, but he doesn't remember.
So, I don't remember.
He doesn't remember.
I guess I lost the fight.
I grew up this size. I was this size when I was 13. He was about this size when I was 13. So we were always about the same size, but he was a better athlete than I was. Was a better athlete than I was.
Here we go.
So he was a better athlete than I was. So but you know, it was great for me because, you know, it was such a challenge. So we'd play basketball in the backyard. We used to literally, we were such basketball fanatics that in you know, Kentucky it gets really cold. If you live in California, you can't appreciate this, but it would get, you know, 10 degrees outside. We played every day, all the time. And we'd leave one basketball inside, and then we'd play outside. And then when that one got so cold that it wouldn't bounce anymore, we'd put that one inside and get the other one to go outside. We wore gloves, we did the whole thing. But it really didn't take more than about 2 rounds of changing the basketball before we got in a fight. Yeah. Usually instigated by him. So we did. So we absolutely got a lot of fights. We didn't really get in fist fights where we really hit each other or anything, but it was always got to the point where somebody threw the basketball at the other guy and walked inside.
Well, let me tell you something about Bracken that you definitely don't know. When he was 12 years old, he led the entire Little League in home runs. That's how big a, you know, player he was. Now, his team went 1-17. So remember what I said about being part of something greater? You know, okay, well, I didn't really work out there.
I also threw a pitch right over the backstop.
Yeah, he did that too.
Yeah. Any other questions? Yep, absolutely.
Hi.
Hey.
My name's Catherine. Hello.
Hi.
I'm British.
I didn't pick up on that at all.
Can I say your accent's gorgeous? Absolutely gorgeous. Not that you have one. Obviously, I have one, but...
Oh, I know I got one. Yeah.
So I'm quite new to this country. I arrived on the 10th of November last year. And it was actually 2 days after Donald Trump was elected to become the president. I found the culture shock pretty overwhelming. And I've been I have CNN on at home quite a lot. And I've watched a lot of divisiveness, a lot of sort of divisive, you know, people divided essentially. And I've been really looking for messages of good, of just messages of really good people. I'm trying to find good people. There's 3 places that I found them, and one of them is in Uber. So I don't drive a car in America at the moment. So I travel in Uber quite a lot and in Lyft as well. And I learn lots about people's lives and their stories and their history and where they've come from. And everybody's from everywhere. Everybody's got so many different stories to tell. It's incredible. The other piece of good is a program called This Is Us, which makes me cry every time I watch it, because it's full of people who maybe make the wrong choices on the odd occasion, or perhaps end up in the wrong direction, but they do tend to be quite good underneath it all. And then the other place is here, actually.
I can see that.
Yeah. So thank you very much for telling us a story about good.
Thank
it's
you.
really important at a time like this.
Thank you.
For me, personally, anyway.
Thank you for that. And Here's my, yeah, thanks. That's really nice. Well, since you brought up my accent, I'll respond to that because about, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago, I was in Los Angeles in a trial for 7 weeks. And I was the only lawyer in the case that was not from either San Francisco or LA. And about the 4th or 5th day, we're on a break, and a court reporter came out and said, "Excuse me," she yelled at, "Mr. Darrell." I said, "Yes, ma'am." And she said, "They say you're from Kentucky." I said, "I am." She said, "Well, my grandfather is from Kentucky." I said, "Well, that's fantastic. Do you know what town or what city?" And she said, "No, but he really was from Kentucky. He even had that gap between his 2 front teeth that you all have to put your straw in." No, I wasn't being stereotyped. Anyway, I said, "Well, but did he wear shoes?" She said, "Of course he did." And I said, "Well, you better check and make sure he's really from Kentucky then, because we're, you know." So welcome to America. No. I like you.
Yeah.
Thank you all
Any
so-
other questions?
Oh, there's one back here.
Okay.
Hey, thank you again for coming out
Thank you.
and giving your perspective and story. I think one thing that's interesting is a lot of times people describe Bay Area, Silicon Valley as being out of touch with kind of middle America. So being from Kentucky, being in the heartland of America, what do you think we should keep in mind when thinking about the rest of the country as people, but also as a company designing products for people everywhere?
That's a really good question, a good observation. Is this being recorded? I don't think, I just think you need to be aware. From a purely business perspective, you just really have to know what's out there because I get what you're saying. There are some cultural and demographical differences that are real. The things that make absolutely perfect sense to somebody in rural Kentucky, not all of us, but to some people in rural Kentucky, you would find amazing. You couldn't get your arms around it. And, but I think it's just like anything else. You just got to get yourself educated sometimes with things that are not so educated. Being educated requires you to know who doesn't just know something, but who doesn't know something. And, you know, gosh, you're in everywhere in the world. I mean, I'm not saying it's as big a difference as, you know, from here or, you know, Australia or China or wherever, but there are significant cultural differences. Now, for you gamers in here, there ain't a whole lot of difference now. Our kids are eating up with it. Listen, Michael thinks Bracken's a lot cooler than me because when I said Logitech, yeah, I know they do too. But but when I said Logitech, you know, he's like, "Oh, games. I mean, that's all, you know, that generates." So I don't care where you live. There are some common denominators, and that's really probably the best message on how to conquer some of these divides is to find those things. And gaming is just one little silly example, but it's real. The kid in Culverport, Kentucky, is as much into some of those things as somebody right here in Silicon Valley. So.
As an educator, with the world changing really fast and things like artificial intelligence coming in and jobs being destroyed faster, what's your view on how education should change or needs to change in the next 5, 10, 20 years?
Okay. Well, there's lots of things that will change. Some be forced on it, some should be voluntary. Here's what I try to meet with every single student, high school student that comes for a college visit one-on-one with their parent or grandparent, whoever they're with. And I say this to all of them, that by the year 2030, depending on which expert you want to listen to, as much as 65 to 68% of the jobs then don't exist today. So if that's true, then we can't be running kids off what we call the academic assembly line anymore. So they look, talk, walk, think, act, feel like everybody else. Got to be unique. So we tell them this: you decide first what kind of a human being you want to be 20 years from now. What do you want people to say about you as a person? Let's make a career fit around that, because the constant will be who you are. The change will be what you do. So we try to focus on what's unique about somebody. We're not going to spend 70% of the time trying to get somebody better at math. If they're a bad math student, I wasn't. Well, I want to be an average math student, spend 60% of my time getting there? No. Let's find out what I do really well. Let's blow that up so that I'm unique. Bracken actually gave a great talk by Skype to our freshman English students last year, and I think you were in Italy at the time in some hotel room, you know. It's the way he would do it, though, right? I mean, yeah. And he told the kids, he said, you got to be, you know, to communicate. You got to be able to write. You got to do this stuff. You know, he said, I'm in tech, and you can't work for me if you can't engage and do all these things that, you know, we were talking about at lunch. These kids now, they're the best multitaskers man has ever known. They do 106 things at once, and they're bored and want to know where the 107th is. But they're the worst at sitting down and talking right here and locking in and reading your body language and knowing what you really said to me. And those are the things that are going to have to change. One thing I got a real problem with, a lot of states are pumping all kinds of money into what they call workforce development. Let's get that in there. Let's get all these kids in this, with a skill that we can put into the operations and production, and all get these people working with these labor shortages in these manufacturing plants or some tech. That's all well and good, but some of these same companies who are begging for this are also pumping millions and millions of dollars into research and development to try to find a way to eliminate every one of those jobs they're wanting us to train them for. So 7 years from now, we're going to have the same problem. We're going to go, boy, what do we do? And I think Bracken said to me before, the next product in the years, it's not going to be anything to put your hands on as much as it is that new idea. And so I'm afraid we're losing we got to get back to creating really great minds. That's the biggest problem. That was more than you wanted, but that's one of my hot buttons.
I'll close. You probably figured out why I had Bart come, because he's obviously all about people. And, you know, I had an interesting meeting this weekend that I'd appreciate if you didn't share outside of this room. But so I met with somebody who's on the board of Uber. And it's somebody I barely knew, and they weren't interviewing me for the CEO of Uber, so don't worry. Or maybe you'd be happy to hear that. I don't know. But they did ask me, what kind of person would you look for to run Uber? And I told them, I was thinking about this Bart's talk, and I told them exactly.